Hey guys, welcome back. If you've made it into this video, then you must have a YouTube account and be over 18 because sadly I have to rate this video as 18 plus due to the content that is going to be in this book. The book that we are covering today is Sunstone, and this is book 1. I'm going to be separating out these reviews between book 1 and book 2 purely because I feel there's probably quite a lot to talk about for each book, but also because I'm spreading out reading the first book to the second book, so I've not actually read the second one yet because I enjoyed the first one so much, and I don't really want to, I guess, rush that experience to not have a whole lot further to read. This book is by, and I have no idea what the official kind of pronunciation is, but I've always pronounced it as just Stjepan Sejic. It could be Stefan or Stjepan Sejic, I'm not 100%. It is the same gentleman who is currently writing the Harleen book for DC Black Label, and I'm going to pick that up once it's done as a complete hardcover. I believe sort of January-ish that's coming out. So potentially we'll have this review, the further Sunstone review, and then a Harleen review based on, as I say, Sejic's work overall. So it says on the back of the book here, from writer-artist, as I say, Stjepan Sejic, comes the first hardcover collection of the New York Times and #1 Amazon best-selling series, The Saga of Ali and Lisa, two women whose friendship blossoms into the emotionally riveting BDSM relationship. Gorgeously rendered, hilariously written, and delightfully earnest, Sunstone is an alternative romance for the modern age that any fan of comics can enjoy. Collects trade paperback volumes 1 through 3. As I say, this is rated M for mature, so mature comic fans can enjoy. But as I say, basically the premise here is that we've got three sort of main characters. We have our main, I guess, dominatrix girl, who works in, I believe, sort of tech or coding or something along those lines, if I remember correctly. We have our main submissive girl, who works in a local kind of coffee shop type thing and writes kind of erotica style sort of books and vlogs and stuff. And then we have our main male protagonist, who's somewhat the best friends slash ex-boyfriend of our dominatrix character. He is also somewhat a dominative character in the sense of he wouldn't be a submissive, and he basically creates custom furniture and outfits for people who are in the BDSM community. So that's the basic, as I say, premise overall, and it's to do with how their relationships kind of intertwine and the, I guess, geekier side to sort of BDSM kind of relationships. So let's take a closer look at the book itself. Probably one of the simpler looking books. We've got this somewhat kind of, I guess, collar as the main kind of image, and it just says Sunstone Book 1 on the side, matches up to that, and then on the back we have the overall blurb. It says this is romance / erotica, and as I say, this is rated M for mature and is by Image Top Cow. The main split of the book is pretty good. I've found that the spine lifts up quite well. There is an ever so slight separation at the edge here, but nothing that I've really been concerned about. And the binding, as you can see there, is sewn, so I've not really had any worries from that kind of perspective. The art, as I say, along with the writing, is all by the same person, so it all fits. Doesn't feel anything kind of forced or squeezed in, because he could rework the art to match whatever he needs to kind of do. These are our main kind of two characters. So the kind of brunette, kind of dark haired is our dominatrix, and the redhead is our submissive. And as I say, this kind of covers their relationships and kind of discussions and things. And there are obviously sexual images like this in there, but they are few and far between. It is much more to do with their different conversations and just generally kind of stuff going on. I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but it is somewhat written from the submissive's point of view, so it's like she's telling us the story. Although occasionally they'll jump out and actually have a conversation, maybe around the characters in current terms, like they're kind of telling us or discussing with each other what kind of happened. The art, as I say, is just gorgeous across the board. Can't really complain. It does somewhat go back and forth from a slightly more realistic look to a slightly more cartoony look, and I think that is, again, to keep the focus on the story and the characters rather than on it being a very artistic / more sort of erotic book. And then at the back of the book, I kind of recommend it to a lot of people that you don't read this section until you've read both books, because I kind of skimmed through this and I feel like there's a little bit of spoilers as to where things are going. So, as I say, I told Emma and anybody else who's potentially reading this not to read the back end of this until afterwards, because this is all stuff of the writers talking about how they made the book and potential ways they went and things they want to show. As I say, there's things in here that might be extras from the second book, and if you don't want to spoil it at all, then as I say, I would avoid reading through this section. Skimming through it just now is not going to spoil anything for you guys. It's just going to look like covers and art and so on. But as I say, reading it would probably be advised against until you've read both volumes of the hardcover. And then at the very back, we've just got, I believe these are the various covers for the trades that were included, and various other books available from Top Cow Image. Getting back to the story focus, our main three protagonists or characters as a whole, as I say, their connection is that essentially the two girls are somewhat experimenting as friends in this sort of BDSM relationship. They very much treat the engagement as a game, somewhat like a role-playing kind of, I forget what the exact term for that is, where they go and do like a massive role-play battle or something that's all scripted out and stuff. It's a very similar kind of concept, but in some ways only the Dom knows the story and knows how scripted the story is, and in this case the submissive is very much ad hocing as she goes along, trying to play along with the story, and she somewhat thinks that a lot of what the Dominant's doing is similar but following the script, but yet we find that I guess the dominatrix or the dom kind of people are a lot more sort of scrutinous to the specifics. So she's kind of practiced how these lines are said and how she'll look and what she'll wear and all these kind of things right down to an absolute specific. And I find this quite funny because it gets really into kind of geekiness of like, oh, will this work, will that not work? And she's worked alongside the sort of ex-boyfriend to create various beds that have like hooks or hangs and all these different things on it, and they'll be discussing this sort of somewhat sexual things, which a lot of people are very prude against in the Western kind of world, especially in sort of America and the States compared to sort of Central Europe. So a lot of this stuff you wouldn't be able to discuss in front of others in public, and it's really interesting to see how these guys get to be more enthusiastic and discuss all these elements when they're in more of a private thing, or maybe they're all sitting in a cafe as a group and kind of discussing different things. And as I say, it's more logistics. It's like, oh, if I was to strap, a girl up in this manner, then, her blood would rush out of this arm, and that's not going to allow her to get X kind of, pleasure, or whatever the case may be. And I thought it was really interesting because they're really kind of picking and scrutinising these key points as to how things are, and it's no different than being like, oh, if my character has X weapon in this game, he's not going to get past this section because he won't be able to jump as high because it's too heavy, or, that kind of stuff. And I think it's really funny. The more and more we get through this book, it ties into other geeky areas. They have throwbacks and stuff to do with, like, say, Star Trek and comic book reading and various other collections and kind of stuff. And we find that these characters are also into different things, be it music or whatever the case may be, and they start discussing that as well. So the more and more we get into this, the less focus becomes about this being a somewhat kind of pornographic book, and more about it being a relationship and geeky kind of book. And I guess the one thing I want to put out there, which you will have seen from the closer look, is that they don't actually show any sex. There's no, to my knowledge, sort of penetration or climaxing going on graphically in this book. It's very much the build-up and the role-play and the whole concept behind things, because again, that is the geeky side, that is the fun side as to what they want to talk about here, and I find that really interesting and refreshing. I would love if they did that in movies, and rather than kind of cutting straight to someone like literally, naked hanging out of a building, let's have all of the build-up and foreplay, and then let's just skip the actual sex scene, because we don't need it, right? And then we can make it actually more rated for younger kind of audiences. The main thing here, as I say, is the friendships, is the geekery, is the overall kind of topics and stuff being discussed. The graphics are beautiful. The overall outfits and stuff are a work of art in themselves. And I believe there's a couple of calendars off of this that are based on all the outfits that, as I say, the main kind of guy is supposed to have designed. Sorry if I'm missing their specific names out, because I don't remember. I'm really bad with sort of independent books and remembering the characters. I've only read something once. But it's a good book overall. The Sunstone name comes because that is their safe word for the two girls, and I believe after the second book we go on to Sunstone Mercy, and that's because Mercy is the safe word for another couple at some kind of point. So I've enjoyed it overall. I think it's a really interesting book. I would recommend it for a lot of comic book kind of geekier readers, definitely more mature readers. Although I think anybody could enjoy it and just find it sexy. I think the people who are going to get the most out of it are the people who are actually kind of looking for the further depth and the geeky kind of sides of it. But I've really, really enjoyed it overall. And right after I finished reading this volume, Emma read it through and she's enjoyed it. And she's already having a go at me for not reading the second volume yet, because she wants to read it straight through. But as I said before, I'm taking a little bit of a break because I enjoyed it so much, and I want to leave that little bit of a gap. I can't talk this book up, enough. It's completely, I believe, drawn, written, inked, coloured, all by Stjepan Sejic. As I say, I believe it started out originally on DeviantArt as a kind of side project that he was doing, because he was getting a little bit bored, I guess, of doing a lot of I forget what the books was he was drawing at the time, but he was drawing a whole bunch of books in a series around kind of stuff, and I guess he was getting bored of doing that licensed stuff and wanted to create something a little bit different. So this was what kind of came out of that. His wife has had some influences, I believe, in that as well, and she has done some other spin-off stories. So there are some spin-offs, I guess, within this world of books by other people. But I don't know how much they tie to our main protagonist. So as far as I'm concerned, I only really want to read this, going on to Mercy and whatever potentially follows by him. Anyway guys, that's Sunstone book 1. I will cover book 2 down the line. Let me know below if you guys have checked this out, either in trades or hardcovers, or if this is something you've even heard of. I know this video will probably get less views because, as I say, I have to rate it as mature, and I refuse to do 2 videos where one is not showing you the content, because if you're not old enough to see this video, then you probably shouldn't be reading the book anyway. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video overall. As always, as I say, let me know below, how you've read this book or how you plan on reading this book. Rate this video to let me know what you guys think of this more, I guess, sort of mature format review. And, share this video with your friends if you think they'd like to know a little bit more about Sunstone, or as I say, Sejic's books in general. And I'll see you guys next time.